Morning, everyone. Okay, so today we are very excited to start our third installment of e-Skwela. Um, and before that, I'll be giving an introduction of this particular session. So our session will focus on navigating COVID-19, reshaping higher education in the Philippines. I'm Mark Abalos. I'm the education industry lead at World My Business. So today we'll focus on how this particular time of crisis is affecting the higher education landscape. So just to give you an idea of what's happening globally, today the new normal is telling us that some 1.3 billion students and youth across the planet are affected by school and university closures due to the COVID-19 outbreak. And this is as of today, May 8, 2020. So there are 177 countrywide closures, and then 74.4% of total enrolled learners are affected as well. So these school closures widen learning inequalities and hurt the vulnerable children and youth disproportionately. Now let's situate it in the Philippines. So we have a countrywide school closure affecting 28.4 million learners. Question is, where are we going? Which direction are we headed? It's said that if we do not change the direction we are headed, we will end up where we are going. So let me formally welcome you to e-Skwela in partnership with the Commission on Higher Education, COCOPEA, and of course, the Philippine Association of Colleges and Universities. So let me introduce to you our esteemed panelists for the day. Our first speaker obtained his political science degree at the Colegio de San Juan de Lechan and graduated with honors. He also earned his Bachelor of Laws degree at the University of Santo Tomas Faculty of Civil Law and was admitted to the Philippine Bar in 2005. He recently completed an executive program at the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy at the National University of Singapore on transforming higher education leaders through effective policy reforms. He is also a regular resource person of the House of Representatives and Senate Committees on Education and serves as legal counsel and currently the managing director of the Coordinating Council of Private Educational Institutions, the Catholic Educational Association of the Philippines, the Philippine Association of Private Schools, Colleges, and Universities, Fund for Assistance to Private Education, Philippine Accrediting Association of Schools, Colleges, and Universities, PACU, and South Manila Education Consortium, the National Alliance of Private Schools in the Philippines, Ayala Education, Asian Association of School, HRMD Practitioners of the Philippines, and the National Collegiate Athletic Association. So he helped also draft RA 10533, or the Enhanced Basic Education Act of 2013, and has actively engaged in its public discourse and legislative deliberations. He was one of the handful who wrote the implementing rules and regulations and hence has an insider's understanding of the law and its implications. In 2018, successfully defended and the constitutionality of RA 10533 in the case of Council of Teachers and Staff of Colleges and Universities in the Philippines versus the Secretary of Education. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor of presenting you the education lawyer of choice, Attorney Joseph Noel M. Estrada. Good morning, sir. Our next speaker graduated with a degree in medicine and began work at the Our Lady of Fatima University as assistant administrator in 1989. She rose from the rank and is currently the president of the Our Lady of Fatima University. And during her leadership, the university has grown to 5 campuses with over 25 program offerings from basic education to higher education and a student population of over 45,000. She's currently the president of the Philippine Association of Colleges and University, and she was awarded, of course, as the Church Papal Award for the Church and for the Pope, given by Pope Benedict in 2010. One of the 100 most influential Filipino women in the world, awarded by the Filipino Women's Network. And of course, an outstanding leadership award in the field of medicine given by the UERMMMC. She's also an outstanding CEO from the academy given by the Philippine Council of Deans and Educators in Business, and was admitted to the doctor and awarded the degree of doctorate in business administration, aside from the medical degree, by the Philippine Academy of Professionals in Business Education in 2015. She also has an honoris causa doctorate degree in pedagogy by the University of Luzon. Let me welcome Dr. Carolyn Marian Santos Enriquez. Good morning po, Dr. Carol. Okay. Our third member of the panel is a painter, a sculptor, a filmmaker, a director, a film researcher, a multimedia artist, and a film critic who believes in the culture of sharing knowledge and narratives about life and the human condition. She is a professor of the University of the Philippines Open University Faculty of Information and Communications Studies, and she teaches film at the Film Institute College of Mass Communication at UP Dalaman. She's also the founding chair of the UP College of Mass Communication Film and Audiovisual Department, and has taught at the College of Fine Arts, University of the Philippines Dalaman for 5 years. She also served as the first chairperson of the Film School Board of the Philippines and a member of the Film Committee of the National Commission of Culture and the Arts. In recognition of her contribution as an artist and an academic, the University of the Philippines bestowed upon her the honorific title UP Artist 1 from 2009 to 2011 and 2012 to 2014, and awarded UP Artist 2 from 2015 to 2017. She was also awarded the Meritorious Service Award by the Asian Association of Open Universities in 2016 and the Excellence in Communication Award by the Philippine Communication Society in 2018. For her vision of what art, culture, education, and communication should be in the 21st century, she has been invited to sit in governing boards and technical panels and had been consulted in aid of legislation on various issues and strategic directions for the education sector. Among her major engagements were as chair of the CHED Technical Panel for Transnational and Distance Education, former executive board member of Asian Association of Open Universities, and served as its Secretary General and former president of the Asian Association of Women's Studies. She's now the executive director of PBU. Our speaker, Dr. Gigi Alfonso, earned her PhD in communication, her MA in humanities, art history, and her Bachelor of Fine Arts, all from the University of the Philippines. Good morning po, Ma'am Gigi.
Good morning.
And last but not the least, the last member of our panel currently holds the positions of Chairperson of the Commission of Higher Education, Advisor of the Philippine Negotiating Panel with the National Democratic Front, Communist Party of the Philippines, New People's Army, and Commissioner of United Nations Educational, Scientific, Cultural Organization, UNESCO. He's a professor of public administration at the University of the Philippines and served as its vice president for public affairs from 2011 to 2016. He is an academician who has used his technical expertise to help policymakers educate the public and run political campaigns. His areas of policy expertise call for higher education, agriculture, indigenous communities, environment and climate change, good governance, and local government. He has spent the past 3 decades in the policy arena in the Philippines and the United States, where he served as an executive assistant, chief of staff, senior consultant, and the senior advisor to Senate Presidents Aquilino Pimentel Jr. and Coco Pimentel, Senate Presidents pro tempore Superior Laurel, Leticia Ramos Shahani, and Juan Clavier, and Senators Gregorio Nasan and Ramon Magsaysay from the 8th to 16th Congress. He is an internationally recognized political analyst and an opinion maker whose views are extensively quoted by foreign and local media. As a public intellectual, he simplifies complex studies and explains national issues through his top-rating education program, Turo Turo and DCM and Teleradio, and No Filter on the ABS-CBN News channel. He was a Fulbright Case visiting scholar at the University of Southern California and the California State University, Sacramento, and a senior Fulbright visiting professor fellow at the Johns Hopkins University. He served as the Committee on Revenue and Taxation of the California State Legislature and was the first Filipino recipient of the California State Assembly resolution given by Speaker Willie Brown commending his work at the California Legislature in 1992. He served as a member or advisor to the Philippine delegations to the 1994 UN Conference on Population Development held in Cairo, Egypt, the 1995 UN World Summit on Social Development in Copenhagen, the 1996 UN World Food Summit in Rome, and the 2002 UN session on children in New York. As a political strategist, he has run many political campaigns at the national and local levels and serves as the president of the Association of Political Consultants in Asia. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. J. Prospero Popoy de Vera. Good morning po, Chair Popoy. Okay, so I think we're ready to start our discussion for today. But before we go to the serious talks, I'd like to ask every panel member, how are you at this point? What have you been doing? And tell us something about your current activities aside from the role that you're doing in your offices. Let's start with Chair Popoy. I think Chair Popoy is in mute po.
Well, I'm here in the office almost every day doing my Zoom sessions from here. In between, I've been rediscovering my passion for gardening and planting and fixing the house. So that's what's been keeping me busy.
That's interesting. That's very interesting, sir. How about Ma'am Gigi?
Rami, yesterday I just finished 3 episodes for a program in TVUP, so I'm really quite busy in that. And we're doing a lot of coverages as well.
Thank you. Ma'am Carol?
Thank you.
Morning.
Morning, ma'am.
Well, initially, I had great plans for the quarantine period, and it included learning how to improve my cooking, learning how to clean up my closets. But in the end, nothing happened because we're busier now addressing the needs of schools and institutions. So it's harder now. But we're enjoying work from home in a way, but it's also difficult because we'd like to be able to interact already with the people that we work with. We miss school.
Yes. I also miss work, but we are working 24/7. Attorney Era, how about you?
Hi everyone. Well, most of the time I'm on Zoom. doing meetings and joining discussions. And the rest of the time, I balance with family time and watching Netflix and trying to catch up with work left unfinished before the ECQ.
Right. So I think these are activities that really would make us feel at least normal at this new normal, at this time of the new normal. So to keep the ball rolling, I'd like to start with the first question addressed to our chairman, Popoy de Vera. So, what are the plans of the Commission of Higher Education as the governing institution for higher ed, and are there specific mandates? I believe, sir, that you have prepared slides for us.
Yes, I prepared a short PowerPoint to give context to what we're doing. No? So if you'll allow me, let me start. No,
Yes.
the topic that you assigned me is reshaping higher education in the Philippines. So first, let me put the context. No, first context. This is a global pandemic. It affects everyone. It hit us from left field. And therefore, in this pandemic, there are no experts, there are no individuals who can predict with certainty what will happen. What we are sure of is that it affects a lot of countries. There's a lot of deaths. There's a lot of displacement. So that's the first context. No experts in this pandemic. The second context is in the Philippines. We really all those who are saying that government responded late, to me, are Monday morning quarterbacking. Because just like most countries, we were never, I don't think anyone was prepared really for the magnitude for this pandemic. I remember when this was first discussed by policymakers. This is a picture from February 4 when we had that hearing in the Senate and almost all the cabinet members were there. The only thing that we were talking about was how to place the mask correctly and how to understand where it is coming from and its possible effects. And I did speak throughout the almost 4-hour hearing. I was seated beside the manager of the airport, and we were talking about passenger manifests and how much distance there would be between individuals. So to say that government was slow-footed on this whole thing really is something that you can say for most countries because we don't have experience with pandemics of this magnitude in this country. But when it hit us, okay, this is a political cartoon on February 9 from the Philippine Star. And if you notice, even the media did not understand the pandemic. They were saying, why are we talking about this COVID-19, where in fact dengue and polio is just in our backyard, and it is something that government should take seriously. So this whole idea that the government was prepared, everybody was prepared, is not really a reality as late as February and even March. I held a soap fair from March 9 to 11. But when it hit us, I think it hit us in a magnitude that nobody expected. The volume of fear that it elicited and also the hoarding that resulted from it, we've never seen in our lifetime. It is the time where toilet paper became a very important, need for most people who would storm the supermarkets to try to get as much toilet paper as they have. And it taught us several things that are quite interesting. It taught us to be historical in our perspective because suddenly everybody was talking about all other plagues and all other pandemics that have us all the way to the 14th century, and suddenly there's a realization that this can hit us in a magnitude that we cannot imagine. It also taught us that gadgets like taking temperature is now something that we have to do in every place that we will go. And interestingly, it taught us what our parents have been telling us all this time, to wash your hands. So finally, we're taking seriously what our parents were telling us since we were kids, that you've got to wash your hands. So that is the context, unpredictable, difficult to handle, global in nature, and no experts on this matter. So how are we reshaping higher education, therefore, in the Commission? Let me tell you very frankly that it has been a very challenging and difficult experience. I've attended almost all the IATF meetings. These are pictures of the IATF meeting in Camp Aguinaldo. They drag on from to as long as 10 hours, and then you go to Malacanang to see the president for another couple more hours. It is difficult and challenging because coming from the academe, it is so difficult to make decisions with limited data and analysis. Because data is simply not available in many respects on the pandemic. The difficulty is, as an academician that is trained in evidence-based decision making, you've got to make very fast decisions that affect a lot of students. That is really the difficulty on me on a personal level. But I always go by what I usually say, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. You just have to do it. You just have to find it in yourself, to make calculated decisions based on your experience, based on the available data, based on consultation with other cabinet members. So this is the context when we say, what are we doing? So what has CHED been doing? Basically, since March 15, we have been issuing advisories. We have issued 6 advisories, from talking about no classes, to FAQs about scholarships being put online, to going after fake news, to discussing what ECQ means, putting up a hotline, asking private universities to please do not collect tuition during these difficult times. And I'd like to thank our Paku and other schools for responding to the appeal. And basically, as much as possible, giving flexibility to universities to respond to what is opening on the ground or what is happening on the ground. So the response of the Commission was really to give advisories on how differently situated higher education institutions should respond. There have been, and we have been converting this into infographics and adjusting to the new normal, that the communication channels are on social media, and you've got to get your message across. The other thing that we've responded to is to start seriously talking about flexible learning. I know when I issued the first advisories, I did not use flexible learning as a term. I used alternative methods. And I think that was a mistake in a sense, because everybody associated alternative learning with online learning. And there was a big problem because many students did not have connectivity. There were many complaints. What I was talking about is not just open learning, but flexible learning. Why was this the approach of the Commission? Simply because we knew that even before COVID, a lot of universities have been doing online learning already, and they've been doing a good job. Many shifted to flexible learning during the ECQ. And we are committed to assist higher education institutions do flexible learning starting this May. So the buzzword as far as all the Zoom sessions and discussions and the media is concerned is flexible learning, not distance or open learning exclusively, because flexible learning includes both offline and online mechanisms for learning. What else? We have asserted in the IATF, and this has not been opposed, that we should have classes in August. The proposal of the Commission before the IATF was to implement a rolling opening of classes based on the capability of higher education institutions, compliance with health protocols, discussions with local governments, and the situation on the ground. We have to be very careful of coming up with one-size-fits-all policies because the situation on the ground is very different across geographic areas. There are provinces where there is no COVID until now. And so therefore, all policies of government must adjust and be flexible on what is the situation in the ground. So the policy that we have proposed is for higher education institutions that are able to do flexible learning. They should open in August. In fact, those who are doing open and distance learning purely on online can even open their summer if they want to, because there is no issue about COVID if you are doing it purely online. And this is the universities that will have some difficulty because their facilities, their capability means they will have to do significant residential learning. They can open later, again, depending on the conditions in the ground, discussions with local governments, and compliance with health protocols. This policy, of course, is anchored on the fact that the health situation can change significantly between now and August 20. Hopefully, the change is positive. Hopefully, there is no second surge. And we are doing this because the the health situation can improve because testing capacity is increasing, additional laboratories are being certified, and more quarantine centers are being established in different parts of the country. What has the Commission been doing all this time? I think I've spent too much time doing Zoom sessions. Actually, I'm busier now than before because I have adopted a policy that anything that the Commission does, all the policies that it makes, must be in consultation with public and private universities. We have not implemented any policy without consultation. And I think our universities can attest to that. We regularly conduct Zoom sessions with public and private universities, and we bring the interest of these universities to IATF. I was able to bring COCOPEA to present in the IATF. That is not a normal in the IATF. The IATF usually is a discussion among government agencies, but they allowed COCOPEA to present the economic impact of the ECQ on private universities. We are going to seriously train faculty and administrators and CHED staff on professional development. We are rolling out the notice for proposals, I think today or at the latest tomorrow. And the other thing that the Commission wants to take seriously is business continuity planning. Because the ECQ showed this, even for CHED, the CHED is not prepared to work fully at home in ECQ. And in other areas, we're not fully prepared to do flexible working arrangements. Business continuity has to happen because the activities of government must continue. And we will roll this out also to universities. What have we done for students? We have worked with the PRC to cancel all examinations until June and reschedule once a year examinations within the year. We're discussing with Marina on the welfare of maritime students. We have been able to repatriate or return stranded students. This has been a very, very difficult exercise over the past 2 weeks with the help of the DFA, the Department of Labor, and the Department of Tourism. And I have attended 2 House hearings already on pandemic-related policies. Now, this is the last slide that I would like to emphasize. What should we prepare for? I just mentioned 3, but there are others. But to me, there are things that are now part of the new normal that everybody just has to accept. Number 1, with or without COVID-19, we must open classes. I do not subscribe to the idea that you just keep on postponing it until there is 0 COVID on the ground. We must open classes, but we also must be good at scenario building and adjustments. Because if a second wave comes in, we have to be prepared for it. If it improves, we have to prepare for it. Uh, which means, among other things, that health protocols must be strictly, very, very strictly enforced, including possibly testing of students and use of PPEs. I ask our universities to seriously review off-campus activities of their universities, particularly internship both here and abroad, because the students may be safest in school. And when they go out, contamination might happen when they go out. I ask our universities to review and maybe impose a moratorium on sending their students abroad, because they are at the mercy of elements and governments that we cannot control when they're abroad. There are instances of interns in Thailand and other countries whose internship are already ongoing, but the private enterprises suddenly closed and they told the interns to go home. Now, who handles the headache? It is the commission, because we have to work with the DFA, etc. Please review your off-campus mobility, particularly internship OJT. Campuses need good health facilities or should work with LGUs that have them, because they have to take care of the children and the faculty and administrators if they get sick. I also ask our universities to please respect the decision of parents if they do not want to send their children to school. This is an abnormal or new normal situation. And if the students don't want to go to classes or the parents are fearful of what happened, please consult with them, talk to them, and respect their decisions. And also faculty who are at risk, particularly those who are 60 and above, please make special consideration for them. The other new normal is that flexible learning will now be the new benchmark. There is no going back. I think this is now a fact. But if a vaccine is made available and we can vaccinate all students, we can be flexible maybe next year and be more flexible in doing more residential than off campus. So flexible is not just going one way, it is going both ways, back and forth. Of course, we need to resolve the digital divide. But to me, insisting that connectivity is a prerequisite for flexible learning is a wrong way to go. The reality is we must adjust to the available connectivity and be imaginative and innovative. Clearly, faculty must now reconsider how they teach. The usual classroom setting has to change now. And the higher education institutions must accept that some ways of teaching no longer make sense. Because in our current pedagogy and teaching, we measure achievement, we measure competence by examinations. We have to transition from exam-based system to project or task-based system. We cannot do the usual examination type approach anymore. And the question that everybody has to grapple with, for faculty members, for students, for administrators, is how will students be evaluated and graded under the new normal? This is a challenge that I don't have an answer. I hope our universities will start talking about it. And finally, there's going to be a looming enrollment crisis that we all have to accept. Thank you very much for the opportunity for allowing me to give a presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Popoy. That was a very detailed presentation. Coming from the presentation, I'd like our audience to type your questions on the comment field in the chat box here on Facebook and on Zoom. So we will be addressing the questions later on. Um, Going back po sa presentation ni Chair Popoy, I really like the idea of flexible learning, because at this point, as educators, we do not have any other option but to really adjust to the needs of our learners. And as school administrators, you also need to understand that not everyone is capable of doing uh, online learning or flexible learning. So we have to make sure that we put innovative and imaginative practices out there. Our next speaker will talk about policies in connection to what the chairperson of the Commission of Higher Education said and presented. Attorney Joseph Noel Estrada, Attorney Era, can you give us a commentary in terms of our policies and some legal point of view in this particular time? What could be changing? What could be the next steps in terms of making sure that mandates are there and that plans are crafted or that laws are crafted, things like that.
Okay, good morning Mark, and magandang umaga sa lahat ng kasama natin ngayon, watching from the FB live session and also from the Zoom that the PACU was created. And I did not prepare a presentation because I did not want to add another layer between me and the participant. Shall I proceed with my presentation, Mark? With my
Yes, sir.
Discussion?
Opo.
Okay. Okay. Again, good morning to everyone. My view is, of course, on the legal perspective, coming from a legal perspective. Our Constitution is replete with education policies and principles that enable our educational institutions to thrive in any condition and that it can withstand any form of challenges. The constitutional mandate of academic freedom of institutions of higher learning and the reasonable regulation of all educational institutions are dynamic concepts that enable our educational institutions to explore, adapt, and migrate to delivery modes of education that are attuned to the times. Academic freedom, particularly the freedom to determine on academic grounds how education shall be taught, finds relevance on how schools adjust post-ECQ. Of course, it also includes our academic freedom to determine on academic grounds who to admit, and included in that freedom in determining who may be admitted in our schools, of course, includes the grades. And this is relevant in the issue of mass promotion. We often hear that. But as enunciated by the Supreme Court in an old case, the San Sebastian College versus Torres case, the Supreme Court said that the passing or failing a student is an academic judgment or discretion of educational institutions exclusively, and not even courts of law and administrative bodies may review or inquire. The only limitation to this discretion is equity and substantial justice. And so therefore, my view on this matter is that some recommendations of policymakers to adopt a mass promotion for all students at this time may not be necessary, and this discretion should be left to the determination of our duly constituted educational institutions. Also, going back to academic freedom, in a recent case of the Supreme Court last year, the case of Pimentel versus the Legal Education Board, it had the opportunity to echo the sentiment of the framers of our 1987 Constitution that when it speaks of reasonable regulation, it refers to supervision and regulation and not control. More significantly, it underscores the supportive power of the state over educational institutions. It underscores support and not obstruction to the delivery of education. And I'd like to quote, Mark, an excerpt from that decision, because this is very important and very relevant to us now. Okay, quote, withholding from the state the unqualified power to control education also serves a practical purpose. It allows for a degree of flexibility and diversity essential to the very reason of education, which is to come in contact with challenging ideas End of quote, Pimentel versus Legal Education Board, September 10, 2019. And of course, we also have the constitutional recognition of the complementary role of public and private educational institutions and the mandate of quality and accessible education. Highlight on accessible, which means it should be inclusive, not restrictive, regardless of the mode. It should be accessible to all students, regardless of their economic background. Now, all of these concepts are not standalone provisions in the Constitution. They are all in conjunction with academic freedom concept enshrined also in our Constitution. Now, do we need more laws in the time of this coronavirus? Yes, probably we need to expand some application of laws, especially to the members or to provide assistance to members of our education community, probably for a fixed period. And COCOPEA is advocating for many of this expansion of these laws. And this includes the expansion of the tertiary education subsidy to include students who are economically affected by the ECQ but are not within the prioritization under RA 10931. COCOPEA also pushes for expansion of the teacher salary subsidy for to senior high, from junior high to senior high, and even elementary to elementary education for ESC. And most especially, we are pushing very hard for a social amelioration package or economic assistance to our affected school personnel. But looking forward post-ECQ, it would be inevitable for our government to adjust regulations to allow educational institutions to move towards the new normal without the unnecessary regulatory and administrative barriers. You see, prior to the corona outbreak, offering online classes, open and distance education is a matter of privilege granted only to those who are qualified based on existing regulations. In basic education, for example, to offer flexible learning options, very specific, under DepEd Order number 21, series of 2019, it says that schools, in order to go into FLOs, should seek the prior permit of the regional DepEd offices. You see, all of these regulations must now be adjusted. We cannot refer to these old regulations. It is the guidelines that should adjust to the time, not the other way around. Of course, I'd like to commend the Commission on Higher Education in issuing the advisories relevant to this, in making the policies more inclusive, and that it has paved the way for review of these CHED memorandum orders that are relevant to offering flexible learning options. Prior to COVID-19, flexible learning options are viewed as alternative modes of delivery and to a certain extent, a privilege. We may have reached the time when flexible learning is the formal and traditional mode and face-to-face is the alternative. Lastly, I want to pay tribute to the Philippine Association of Colleges and Universities. In 1955, Paku filed a petition with the Supreme Court questioning the authority of the government to regulate private educational institutions. This is the case of Paku versus Secretary of Education and the Board of Textbooks. Paku lost the case, as the Supreme Court said that the power to regulate equates to power of control. But that was in 1955. But because of the obiter dictum in this case, the CONCOM of the 1987 Constitution used it to adjust the supervisory and regulatory function of the state, inserting the qualifier reasonable. And the rest, as they say, is history. We now have reasonable regulation of all educational institutions enshrined in Article 14 of our 1987 Constitution. You see, even in defeat, education emerged victorious and even having it enshrined in our fundamental law. Perhaps we can take inspiration from this, that despite the challenges, we will emerge victorious and education will certainly thrive and continue. Maraming salamat po ulit sa inyong lahat. Thank you, Mark, for that opportunity to share my views.
Thank you, Attorney Era. I like the very idea of course, inclusive education, something that is quality and accessible. This is a very memorable, historical moment for everyone, most especially in the education industry, because we are creating and we are seeing history happening right before our very eyes. So hopefully, in the next couple of months, once the vaccine already is out there, we can craft more mandates and probably more policies to support, of course, our educational institutions, most especially higher ed. I'd like to read some questions now, addressing the first two speakers. Um, Chair Popoy, can you tell us, this is from Dr. Vincent Fabella, can you talk about your thoughts on the looming enrollment crisis? Because a lot of our educational institutions, not only in higher ed, but also in the basic education, but let's focus on the higher ed. What are your thoughts on the looming enrollment crisis?
This looming crisis is not only in the Philippines, this is global. If you read now the discussions in universities all over the world, there is serious concern that many parents and students would be hesitant to go back to school until things are completely under control. The fear of the unknown is a very strong constraint, but it becomes more critical in the case of the Philippines because a lot of Filipino OFWs have been sent home, are going home, and do not have clear employment even after COVID. And so their ability to send their children to school will be seriously impaired with the opening of classes. And the economic slowdown, particularly the fact that we will probably have negative economic growth this quarter, it will take some time before the economy will pick up. And I fear that many families will postpone sending their children to school this school year if you put all of these factors together. It is also because the looming enrollment crisis is also because a lot of universities don't know how to proceed in the new normal. And they're sending mixed signals to the parents and students. And so this increases the hesitancy of many parents on the safety of their students. For my apos, I have two granddaughters that are going back to grade 7 when they come in. And the signals on connectivity, how will the new normal look like, how will the learning process look like, makes a lot of parents pause at this moment. Hopefully, the signals from the universities and from government and from the economy become clearer so that decision making on the part of the parents will be easier to make. Hopefully, government can increase subsidy for student loans so that even if families don't have the capacity, they can have no interest loans, at least para may pang-enroll sa pasukan. And hopefully, the global economy picks up because we need it for our OFWs. I think that is the upside and the downside of the Filipino diaspora. The fact that we are all over the world. If something global hits us, it affects practically every Filipino family. So that's the combination of uncertainty, of fear, of big signals, of economic slowdown that is sending a very negative message right now as we open classes next semester.
Thank you, Chair Popoy. In connection to that question, another question would be, you mentioned about loans. So do you think the IATF or CHED in general, as the governing body for higher education, have plans in providing stimulus packages to schools to help just tide over the education losses, the economic losses brought about by this pandemic? Because apparently, a lot of say for example, outside the sphere of the government, there are a lot of private institutions that would, of course, loan to their employees. Of course, you mentioned about OFWs going back here in the Philippines. Do we have complete plans already for that?
For student loans, there is a 1 billion student loan fund available in Unifast. The utilization is still small. That can be expanded to cover more students. And if there's a need to increase the amount for that, the Unifast board can increase the amount. Land Bank just announced that they are putting up a 3 billion student loan fund, except the one in Land Bank is a 3% interest. So we just have to figure out how to make the student loan program easier to access for students. But there is money available, and if there's a need, I think even within the existing budget of the commission, we can increase. The economic stimulus package for private universities have been submitted to Congress already. And the House Committee on Higher and Technical Education has drafted a bill. They've sent it to me for comments. I think either it will be filed most probably on Monday. I don't know how fast Congress can act on it, but the details are there. We're still crunching the numbers. Most of the numbers came from COCOPEA, so it's coming from the universities that are affected.
Thank you, Chair Popoy. Attorney Arab, a question here. So in aid of ano po, in terms of the legalities, so do you think it's time to craft now a possibility of crafting or consolidating like a law of consolidating content, allowing open access to online libraries and knowledge centers of different higher education institutions. Like recently, DepEd announced about the DepEd Commons, the Learning Commons, where everyone, private and public schools, have access. So for higher ed, is it possible to, or is there a need for us to craft a law or to do a policy on consolidating the resources and making sure that the knowledge centers of the different higher education institutions would have access to that? Because now you mentioned about being open to the guidelines, not only adjusting the guidelines to the current setup, but of course making sure that everyone, that every law or education becomes inclusive.
Well, in terms of the authority of the power of the schools to adopt delivery modes, that is already allowed, no, under the present laws and even in the Constitution, as I have discussed earlier. So these matters on online and open and distance learning are probably left to our administrative bodies, especially the Commission on Higher Education, because these are matters of implementation and operationalization, which I think no longer requires the positive action of Congress unless it involves budgetary requirements to subsidize the ability of the students to acquire certain gadgets, equipment, and even interconnectivity. But everything else, I think it would be best that it is addressed by our education administrative bodies to avoid the rigid and tedious processes in lawmaking. But as of now, again, we have enough laws. In fact, we have this Open and Distance Learning Act that was already enacted prior to the COVID crisis. No? So we just need a wider implementation and more guidelines to support the innovative effort of our education institutions.
Thank you, Attorney Era. Okay, now it's time for our next speaker. So let's go to your material, Ma'am Carol. My question is, as an organization, are there specific guidelines from the Philippine Association of Colleges and Universities on school management and operations to support your member schools? And of course, give benchmark to the other schools. And then in terms of, say, for example, approaches to practical skills, to internship, of research in times of during the time of the pandemic, because we were getting questions like, should we move the semester, the internship semester, to the next school year, because right now it's not a good time for internship. And I think the chair has already mentioned that those who are flying out of the country and those who will be doing internships should be safe. So I'd like to hear from you, ma'am.
Good morning. Thank you to Globe for this opportunity to explain what PACU has been doing, especially now in the time of crisis. To give a backgrounder, let me explain first what PACU is all about. Um, the Philippine Association of Colleges and Universities is the oldest among the members of COCOPEA. COCOPEA is a coordinating council of private education associations of the Philippines. It is composed of several other organizations, education applications such as CEAP, ACSCU, PAPSCU, and TVSA. So we started way back in 1988. In 1932 or 88 years ago, when Jose Abad Santos and Conrado Benitez from PWU decided to form an association of private universities in order to set higher standards for private educational institutions and to promote the interests of private education in the country. So currently, we have about 193 colleges and universities under PACU's fold. Around 852 students are enrolled in PACU schools. And then we have around 45 of the 84% of private higher educational institutions granted with autonomous and deregulated schools in the country. So for starters, so we talked about PACU as an organization. When we started, that's 88 years ago. Our membership is about 852 students that we cater to. We have about 193 member schools in our fold. Of this, like what I said earlier on, 9 out of 16 are PACU schools with deregulated status. 36 out of 68 are autonomous schools for a percentage of 54% of HEIs with autonomous and deregulated schools. Our vision is to continue its role as a partner in nation building through transformative private education. And we try to stay true with our mission as a socially responsible organization that strengthens the capabilities of our members. Part of our advocacies, the next slide please, is to advocate for quality education of Filipino citizens, to cooperate and collaborate with policymakers, to collaborate with government institutions as evidenced by constant communication, and to help our member schools attain quality education through benchmarking activities and marketing. So what are the initiatives that we have done? So like what Chair Popeye earlier said, nobody was ready for this crisis. No one was totally prepared. We have to learn on the ground. It's not also a leisurely walk. It's actually like a team relay in a marathon. So we have to make sure that we're ready and we're prepared. So what did we do in PACU? So number one, communication is crucial. We made sure that the members, the PACU board would have frequent and regular Monday meetings. So far, we have conducted about 7 weekly meetings with the trustees to update our members on current issues in our course of action. We made sure to cascade all our meeting notes so that everyone is updated with regards to shared solutions and answers to what we could do in the current scenario. We did this through frequent emails and notices, which included the latest government advisories, CHED, DepEd memos, DOH guidelines, IATF, SSS, DOLA memos. We also made sure that we only released verified notices coming from original sources. And then, during our meetings, we talked about shared solutions and experiences. We have discussed how to address academic concerns, such as how do we close the semester, how do we extend the term, and assessment of learning. What was good about this whole scenario was the universities started to share and their fears, their experiences, including the possible solutions on what we can do. There's not a single solution to all the issues. And, and in respect of academic freedom of all the institutions, there are different scenarios or solutions that we are suggesting, but it's really up to the school. For example, in closing the term, you could either close, based on our discussions, we talked about computing class standing, we talked about giving assessments, or we talked about providing special projects just so we close, so that we could close the term. And then we also shared our thoughts on how to deliver education to our students depending on their digital connectivity. We discussed options on flexible learning. We discussed purely online, distance learning, asynchronous and synchronous deliveries. Part of our concerns also is how do we address the salaries of our staff? It was a big concern considering a number of our schools still had tuition balances and collectibles from students which we did not collect because we understood the situation of the parents of the academic community. Most of us, what we did was we prioritized the salaries of our faculty and our staff so that we found ways by which we could help them. Some of our schools, we did prorated 13th month pay so that the salaries could be given in spite of school closures for the moment. Some of us are monetizing leaves and other benefits, such as converting Christmas packages, our summer outings, our conference budgets into monetary benefits for our faculty and staff right now. Financial assistance is also given out of pocket, funded by savings of institutions, just so to make sure that our faculty and staff have the money that they need to cross over during the transition times. And some schools on their own have initiated fundraising campaigns to help out the contractual and their casual employees. Of course, you know about work from home schemes, and this has been instituted not only by the educational sector, but for many. And as part of our advocacies, we pushed for a lot of educational support. And what are these? Together with COCOPEA, and we are glad that our chair for the Commission on Higher Education has been very supportive of all the initiatives coming from the private sector. So we asked the government, and we requested for support for our students. We called for the immediate release of the 16 billion tertiary education subsidy for school year 2019 and 2020. We asked for broadening of the eligibility of student financial assistance to cover students in the private schools with liquidity problems as a result of the situation that are currently not covered by the Listahanan 2.0 program. So instead of just limiting to the prioritization, we ask that it includes many and most of our students who are probably victims right now of the situation. We also sought for the increase of the available funding allocation for student loans under RA 10931 or the Universal Access to Quality Tertiary Education. As part of our advocacies, we noticed and we asked for the government to provide a social amelioration package for our teachers and staff because apparently we were overlooked. Many of the schools could not have access to these programs because their eligibility as affected workers were not accommodated in the DOLE's camp and the DOF small business wage due to budget constraints. We also asked for help through COCOPEA for representation in the IAATF through CHED, and this has been very positively addressed by our chairman, Popoy de Vera. Most of all, we asked for support in education as we pursued preparing for the continuity of school operations. We are offering summer classes. Some schools are offering summer classes so that we could try out the hybrid models of learning delivery and continuity of learning through distance open education. Many have begun their digital transformation by using LMS, learning management systems, that can track progress of individual students. Our main issue right now is we're asking for help because connectivity is partly or fully part of our plans so that we could lay out a successful online or flexible learning modalities. Right now, we're closely working with several telecommunication companies to provide lower discounted rates through a student connectivity subsidy to include prepaid data plans and internet kits, or give special discounts to all existing prepaid internet subscriptions for faculties and students for the next school year and perhaps up to the next school year. We're asking maybe it could be a good idea to provide some sort of a special internet discount similar to what we have for the senior citizens. The senior citizens get a 20% discount on services. We're hoping this is an idea that could be implemented with the cooperation of the telecommunications companies. So that's what we have doing so far for under Paku. We're asking that our next plan of action, and perhaps the wiser one, is to take the pandemic crisis by the horns and use it as an opportunity to use distance learning, not always physically in school, both online and asynchronous, as a second mainstream mode of delivering education. We want to expand this capacity so that immediate need for assuming a safe learning experience as well as build the resistance needed for future disruptions can happen. This is a quotation coming from President Mike Alba from FEU. We ask that everybody would embrace distance learning, flexible learning as the way to go and as a possible solution. We ask that we replicate the vibrancy of campus experience via online, which can be possible with the help of learning in social media apps and virtual labs. It's still far. We have a long way to go, but we have to start now. What do we see as the future of Philippine higher education? It should be aspirational, and we see the University of the future as offering three options: residential, online, or a hybrid of the two. We hope that an enriched experience is possible if digital infrastructure will ramp up and connectivity issues are resolved. In the meantime, universities will continue to remain vibrant, dynamic, and a diverse university place. The replication of the vibrancy of campus experience is within reach, but we have to do it together.
Okay. Very, it was a very good presentation, Ma'am Carol. At least we know what the organization is doing at the moment, and you are correct. In terms of the problems now, one of the most pressing problems would be the connectivity for teachers and the students. And as an organization where we're closely working with all our stakeholders, internal and external stakeholders in the school ecosystem and the university, so that we can partner with them and hopefully give them the connectivity that each particular learner deserves. For our last and final speaker, all right, let's go to Ma'am Gigi. Can you share with us some of the best practices that higher education institutions can adapt? Because like the online distance learning framework, this has been there for a couple of years ago. And then again, I always advocate for pedagogy being put first, and then secondary would be the use of technology, and then of course, together with technologies, the curriculum. So I'd like to understand, or would like to understand better what is the next big thing in terms of online learning or online distance learning or flexible learning. Let's talk to Ma'am Gigi Grace and Alfonso. Hi, ma'am.
Hi. Thank you, Mark. Can you hear me? I'm okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I'm here to share with you my thoughts on ODL, Open Distance Learning, and also Open Distance e-learning. I'd like to share with you how I teach in a fully online course. So let me proceed. This is for continuity of education. So we talk about typhoons, floods, earthquakes, volcano eruptions, and when it happens, we suspend our school a week or 3 weeks, and so on. It depends. But this COVID-19 pandemic has changed overwhelmingly, disrupted our way of life. Its effects will still be felt for quite some time, and it will even change, redefine, and reconfigure how we teach, learn, and discover new knowledge, and how we do our research, how we move our ideas, and how we engage our learners. So here we are, educators looking at the possible convertible, flexible teaching and learning systems. So open distance learning can be an antidote, or because it has been around for ODL has been around for more than 100 years in formal education systems. So but prior COVID-19, I'd like to say, in the world of education, uh, people now are getting interested in ODL once again. And just 10 years ago, everything was going into looking at this framework. And the world has since then become interconnected digitally, and therefore the emergence of open distance e learning. And this has been so prior COVID-19, the conversation has always been about the Industrial Revolution 5.0, Web 5.0, Edu 5.0. And talking about IR 5.0, we are talking about in the IR 4.0 in the World Economic Forum. They were talking about this in 2016. Now, the tide has changed, and really, we are now people are now pushing for social entrepreneurship, but still, everybody is still going with robotics, nanotechnology, biotech, all this, and everything that goes with industrial revolution. So now we also see the where the web went. So in 2006, we had 85 million websites, and we were calling the web semantic web in the third generation. And then today we have 1.95 billion websites. And of course, now the Internet of Things, we call it now symbiotic web for the Web 4.0. And today we have the Web 5.0, which is now called telepathic web and symbionet actually, symbionet web. So it talks about avatars, holograms, open intelligent web, wearables that are, these devices and embedded sensors. So now, where is the conversation of education going? So in the conferences and conventions and all that, so we were talking about education going diverse time and place, self-paced e-learning tools, flipped classroom, personalized learning, use of tools that adapt to student capabilities, free choice or use of tools, project-based field experience, data interpretation. We talk of exams that will change, and also student ownership of where they're going in terms of education. In
Ma'am Gigi.
conferences, yes.
Yes. Do you have a screen in front of you? Can we share it to our audience?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I thought I was sharing it already with you. Let me then push this. All right. All the while, ang gaganda pa naman ng slides ko, anak. Oo. Let me share it with you.
Okay, ma'am.
Right? Oo. Play natin yun, ano? Thank you for reminding me. My goodness. We talk of... I'm sharing this. Teka, anak. Wala pa, hindi ko pa na-share.
Meron na po, ma'am.
Meron na, pero hindi siya naka full screen ba siya?
Not yet po.
Hindi. Saan ko na ba itatouch yun?
I think the one at the back of Zoom. There you go.
Is that full screen now?
Just
Play and then it's there. Okay, so I was saying that we're talking about Edu 5.0 then, and the different education institutions all over the world have been talking about this. Governments like the Minister of Education in the tertiary education minister in Zimbabwe. He says, STEM subjects we teach with a wrong system design, industrialization will not happen. So it's all about problem solving for value creation. Even Japan, reforming education, going to in support of Society 5.0. So also, even in Pakistan, I was just there, and the president of their country was talking like an academic, but was talking about technologies and innovations in education. Same is true for Malaysia. So they want to bring into the classroom all of the augmented reality, etc., and so on, to have simulations in the classroom. So here you have Web 5.0, the Industrial Revolution 5.0, and Edu 5.0. So it's really technology mediated, technology enhanced teaching and learning, and the concepts, these concepts put together, are what was called disruptions in all those conversations. But now, with the COVID-19, we're talking about these same concepts as being used for continuity of education. So now we're all engaged in a reflexive mode, and we're intently reviewing how we will develop curriculum design, course design, use and production of content and resources, and then coming up with delivery modes and assessment. But we realize as we touch delivery mode, we cannot help but also touch the other elements. It's we have to do some adjustment as well in all these areas. So the appreciation of the paradigm shift, it depends on the HEI's resources and the administrators' commitment, teachers, students, parents, and the other stakeholders to come up with various models of what I call now as convertible, flexible teaching and learning systems. Kanina nga sabi ni Sir Popoy, it's really going there, coming forward, and so on, and adjusting. This is all for continuity of education. Now let's go to details. The ODL framework is actually when teachers and students are separated. And the course packages, we come up with course packages for pickup or delivered to their homes. What is inside that course package? This is actually, you have the course description, you have the objectives, you have the course outline, course requirements, manner of assessment, the schedule, it's either by weeks or by topics, and with a matching due date. So it's very important to have clear deadlines, and these are modular. But you can give it as you go on or as a whole package. In my courses that I teach, I give them all, and they would, so that they can design their pace. So the course resources are also part of the package. It can be textbooks, readers. When you say readers, selected articles and chapters and books put together, bound together, and journal articles, laboratory kits, etc. And technology. The technology used is print, radio, television, lectures, and demo videos, and audio tapes, and then USB for storage, assessment, proctored exams, learning and testing centers where they will come and they are proctored in taking the exams. These are the that's the traditional ODL. And then you have the development. This is what is very important in ODL is the preparation of the course materials. So you have to have a quality circle. You have the instructional designer, the subject matter specialist, the subject matter editor, and the language editor, and the media specialist. So by the time it is given out to the students, it's already peer reviewed. And so you have the faculty in charge and you have the tutor. The faculty in charge puts this together, and then the tutor will facilitate teaching and learning. However, in my courses that I teach, I'm the faculty in charge and also I'm the tutor. So when we talk about the openness in higher education and looking at this, we talk of technology mediated, which means that fully online with an LMS going through the internet, and the technology enhanced education, which is the same. It's learner centered, flexible, distributed, blended, and also flipped classroom, which means technology enhanced. But both technology mediated and technology enhanced would be concerned about connectivity, interactivity, ubiquity, and digital literacy, orality, and visuality. So we are very conscious now of the digital divide. We always say that some students will not, have access. But what can happen is if you do bring in and give out your course packages, maybe you can include a mobile phone and load, and that solves a lot of connectivity problems. So now let me give you the framework that in 2007, the UP Open University, we're 25 years old already, and we went completely online 2007, and we really grew with the internet. And and open and distance e-learning is a worldview of teaching and learning that draws from the concepts of access, equity, and sharing, and the open philosophy, open learning, and the flexibility and learner-centeredness of distance education, and the ubiquity, connectivity, and interactivity of e-learning. So the values are still pushing for that universitas ethos, we call it, for excellence, academic freedom, respect for cultural diversity, intellectual pluralism, and service to society. So open distance e-learning, interweaving all these elements, and and hoping, and of course pushing for social transformation. So let's look at the nitty gritty of the Odl framework. Students are separated, just like what we are experiencing now. We're talking about the LMS as a classroom. That's where my classroom is when I teach. So nakalagay na lahat doon, study guide, course description, everything. It's all there, and they can go back to it, they can access it, and it's always there already in LMS, and our LMS is powered by Moodle. So you have the links to e-journals and ebook chapters and also ebooks, and also the links to appropriate OERs and the free MOOCs. So there are simulations and then multimedia digital learning objects. So the virtual student support is there. So the online application, we have search engines, the YouTube, etc. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are also used. So let me now move to. So we also are so pushing, all right, that institutions have openness, agility, sustainability, and equity. And all these must be part of the parameters of quality and pursuit for excellence. So we are pushing for students or our graduates to be innovative, to be creative, to have critical thinking, and will have good communication skills, and that they value. They value their culture, and they value their country, and also respect for the culture of others. So networking, collaboration, and partnerships are needed to strengthen the culture of sharing. So we have 75 million mobile phones. So everybody, this is already a culture, a changing lifestyle, and also uh, changing in student learning styles. So we talk of their digital natives. So us, the digital migrants, will have to adapt to the new technology. So we have here learner and content interactions present. You know, the EL and learner interaction, learner teacher interaction, and learner community of practice interaction. So when I teach, I have in mind that the teacher and learner are co-creators of academic text. So basically, I treat it as a research class, and what I want is for them to have this new experience, new education experience for engagement, so I can engage my students and for them to be connected to the community of practice. So this is how, well, it really doesn't look like this. I sort of put together everything. So these are the courses that I've designed and written, and these are offered, two of them every semester and another two per trimester. And I teach face to face one course. So this is the way it looks. Of course, it's an old slide. Look at me. I think that was 20 years ago, my picture. So here, so, you know, I also ask my students to put their, yeah, on the web, their works. This is for their exhibit and their forum. It's all up there. So I make use of YouTube, Vimeo for them to share. So if you just put in MMS 111 and the name of the course, all of these will come up, and you can watch it and you can share. It can be shared. So I've also designed MOOCs on Philippine art and culture, and also MOOCs for art in ASEAN. And so I do use a lot of OERs, and uh, and I make sure that my students have the habit of looking into it. And these are all accessible uh, in the UPOU networks. But I think you should also visit the TV Up, which is now what I do every day. Come up with productions to put in TVUP, and well, actually popular known as TV Up, and it can also mean TV university partners. So I wish that we can work with all the other scholars and researchers and all the thought leaders of HEIs. So let me, this is only a 30-seconder. Let me play this and share it with you. RUPTV, popularly known as TV Up, is the internet television network of the University of the Philippines. Organized as a multimedia production, digital open educational resource repository, and publication system, delivering well researched and creatively produced academic content and works for information and educational purposes. So, as you can see, you can access this for free. Everybody can use it. So I would like, you know, I'm inviting everyone to view this. You can access tvup.ph. And uh, being in this, and when I was doing my work for the ASEAN 222, my course, I went into collaboration with 4 universities outside of the Philippines to help me out come out with 40 documentaries for this particular course. So how do I engage my students? Dialogue and exchange of ideas in the forum. I ask them to do synthesis papers, reflection papers, and the art forum where they can have materials to be put there and to be critiqued and reviewed by their classmates, and also research in a research paper should be submitted, and we have a formal exhibition where they put all their documentaries and their video productions that they have done themselves, and there's peer evaluation among the classmates. So top 3 choices. So, and of course the MOOCs, there is a MOOC version of that. So thank you very much for this opportunity, for sharing, for me to share my experience in Odl Framework. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma'am Gigi, for all those use cases and examples. I can see a lot of familiar faces: Dr. Legasto, Dr. Capili, Dr.
Yes.
Tolentino, all of those people who were my professors in college.
Yes.
Questions po from our audience.
Oh,
Um, First would be for Ma'am Carol. Uh, at this point po, ma'am, in terms of what Paku is doing in the higher education system, um, do you suggest, like, say for example, uh, to your member, not only to your member universities but also to the other universities, in terms of the, you mentioned about connectivity, in terms of like a consolidated community wherein they can share resources, like what Ma'am Gigi was also trying to say earlier. Is there a way for you to consolidate those resources, learning resources on for that matter, so that all higher education institutions would have access to resources?
Moving forward, creating consortiums between member schools would be a great idea. So if one particular school is strong in a particular program and decides to help out another university that needs that particular assistance, then it would be great. And I think the Commission on Higher Education is considering this as one of its key projects, especially as we roll out online flexible modes of education. On their own, as what we've been doing in Paku earlier on, prior to this, we're already conducting benchmarking practices. And I think some institutions within the network have decided to collaborate on their own prior to all of this so that we could share resources in whatever way that we could help each school. Now, I think education is no longer all about competition, but it's all about sharing and making sure that education is delivered.
Okay. Ma'am Gigi, one of the requirements po of online learning or distance learning or flexible learning is the readiness of the teacher or the facilitator to handle this type of learning. So a lot of schools po are saying, because the industry is really parang a beginner industry in terms of online learning. So we are laggards in the technical sense. Is the UP Open University offering online courses to help teachers or facilitators onboard them at this particular matter, or are there courses accredited by the Commission of Higher Education for professional development, so that our teachers are supported in terms of running online classes or flexible classes?
yes, yes. UP Open University. If you go to its MOOC site, they're offering all types of online learning, online teaching, and also coming up with course design and all the factors, all the aspects of open learning is there for free, and UPOU also has projects with CHED, especially on OER development, and we've done a number of them, and it's all out there to be used. And I think there are also plans of coming out with training programs together with other higher education institutions, because I think Ched, siguro sabihin niya ni Chair Popoy yung mga grants and awards and also our fellowships. I think maraming ibibigay ang Ched towards that, so that we encourage the HAIs to come up with their own version of, that's why I call it convertible, flexible teaching and learning system.
I really
So,
appreciate the use of MOOCs, ma'am. The massive online communities are really helpful in terms of onboarding our teachers. There's a lot of MOOCs out there.
oh,
I
so many, yes, yes, true.
encourage all our
Uh,
teachers.
Thousands and thousands of MOOCs, and I think we should
Mhm.
encourage them to take that. Yes.
Yes. Attorney Erap, what are the implications of this crisis on the free tuition law? So we're now answering questions from our audience. What are the implications of this crisis on the free tuition law? Perhaps the legal point of view could help us shed light.
Well, first of all, I don't think there will be any policy implications insofar as the free tuition law is concerned. If ever there is an implication, it would be on the economic side. No? I think it would pressure or put pressure on the government to expand its implementation and to add more slots and to increase the funds for this, not only in the public or state universities and colleges, but also through the qualified private higher education institutions through Republic Act 10931 and through the tertiary education subsidy.
Okay po. Chair Popoy,
Yes.
you mentioned earlier about the commission's support on the higher education institutions. How are colleges and universities at this point will benefit from CHED's help po? Say for example, the other banks, say for example, Land Bank has the study now pay later program, and you mentioned about the tertiary education budget. How will CHED plan? How does CHED plan to navigate through this particular concern?
Well, I am issuing a memorandum today calling for proposals from higher education institutions to do capacity building program for the faculty, particularly on using flexible learning, both online and offline. This has been approved by the Commission a month ago. The funding source has been identified, so we have money to do it using the Bayanihan Fund legal basis. And we hope that all capable public and private universities can immediately send proposals to the Commission so we can approve it, so this can be rolled out immediately. I think the primary challenge really is when we open in August. I think the non-negotiable is we must be able to decongest the classroom. That is the non-negotiable, which means the commission does not envision that everybody will be jumping online. But the idea is how would you call that? You open up so that there will be fewer students who will be in the classroom. So social distancing can be implemented. So the proper health requirements can be implemented. And the key is how do you now change your syllabus? How do you now change your curriculum? So that you can have students going in and out, offline and online, residential and non-residential. This is the challenge for higher education institutions as they plan for the opening of classes. I have to make it clear that the Commission does not say that everybody must go online. But the non-negotiable is we must decongest the classroom and the school facilities, which means universities may need to open up their gymnasium or their big rooms to have classes to allow it for more social distancing, have very strict regulations on health requirements, washing of hands, wearing of masks, etc. Because jumping from purely residential to online is a big leap of faith. It's
Exactly.
it can't be done very easily. The problem is not just technology because people are all saying it's a connectivity issue. No, it is also a mindset issue. It is a changing of the perspective of a faculty member on how you can now shift the way you teach from just in the classroom. It will change the way you grade your students. It will change the way you give assignments. It will change the way you restructure your syllabus. And we have to help the faculty members. That is non-negotiable. That's why the commission looks at it in very immediate steps that can be done. The faculty member. We must help the universities establish their learning management system. Because if you don't have an LMS, you cannot go to flexible learning. Because you cannot interconnect the faculty, the students, and the administration to do things both inside and outside the classroom. So these are non-negotiables that are urgently needed. It's not going to be an easy task because I was involved in the computerization of UP when I was vice president, when we launched the EUP. The number one problem that was encountered is the resistance to technology of many employees and faculty members. It's a mindset issue. And so we really have to, put our thinking caps on and work together and do that. No? So it's not just a digital divide that we're facing. It's also a mindset, a rethinking of the way we teach our students. And I don't know which one is the more difficult to surmount. Is it the digital divide? Is it the connectivity or the mindset problem? I don't know. I'm not an expert on that. And our faculty members and our school owners probably know that better.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Like on our end in Globe, we are really in the process of like helping our stakeholders, our partner schools, everyone, even not our partner schools, those who ask for connectivity. I'd like to say thank you, everyone, for this particular discussion. A lot of questions out there are answered or were answered, but we have it's 11:41, and I'm sure like everyone is really asking for more content from us. But thank you really for participating in this particular activity. I hope that we were able to answer all your questions. And we will be rolling out several more webinars, but this will go on to the specifics. So you mentioned about the learning management system. So we will be having a separate session on using learning management systems in tech and tech integration as well. We also want to acknowledge again Dr. Carol Enriquez, Dr. Gigi Alfonso, Attorney Joseph Noel Estrada, and Chairman Popoy De Vera for joining us today. So maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. Thank you, Paku, COCOPEA, and Ched for supporting this particular endeavor. Maraming salamat po, and see you on May 26 on e-Skwela number 4.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Salamat.
Thank you.
Salamat.